I had 4 layers of clothing on. I mean, death is on the table all the time. I never take it off. I thought today was the day when I stepped outside.
I will tell you that I went to when I got up this morning. The first thing I do every morning is I get the herd and get them going outside, the 4 dogs, and get them going outside. And they got their own little doggy doors, and they went out the first doggy door fine into the screen-covered lanai on the back porch. And I walk out the door because I know that they're going to need to be herded out because they're not going. They're looking at me like, "Who in the hell do you think you are, and what did you send us out here for?"
Oh, it's not healthy. It's not. Global warming is a plus. If we don't have days like this, I think we're all better off.
100%. 100. I didn't move back to Florida from the mountains of North Carolina for mornings like this. I just didn't. I didn't.
And you know what? People in Florida, I'll give you a perfect example of why it should never be this cold. You know, people in Florida don't know how to really get rid of ice on their windshield, right?
Very good
when
point.
It's really bad, we just grab the water hose, and I've done that. Well, nobody ever tells you that's not what you do. You know, when I lived in Maryland, I told somebody I did that to, like, your windows didn't just completely crack, and I'm like, why would it do that?
Because it's frozen when you put water on it. That's why.
Come on. I don't know these things. And I'm like, and then I was like, well, and then one time it was really bad, so I poured some hot water on it.
I have a very good friend.
And apparently that's a really bad idea.
That's a terrible
idea.
idea.
Know.
I have a good friend of mine, Bert, that he owns a window and glass company up in Boone, North Carolina. And he would always, at leaf changing time and everything, and did a little bit after that when people would come up, they want to see snow and everything, and they come up from places that don't have snow, you know, Georgia and South Carolina places that don't have snow on the regular. They would come up to the mountains, and he would get calls to hotel parking lots where he'd have to change out windshields because people would do stuff like that and just crack and break their windshields because they had no idea they weren't supposed to do that.
Well, what I'm amazed by, and they're like, well, don't you have an ice scraper? I'm like,
it's Florida.
Well, no. The answer would be like, well, somebody gave me one, but
you always have
you stand out there in the cold.
Yeah, you always have an ice. You can't.
I couldn't get over. I'm like, it's too damn cold to be outside.
Well, you got to go. The best way to start, the best way to do that is what you said. And that's why I like the electronic start on my Cadillac, is you can just press a button from inside and crank the car. And if you have your defrosting all set from the night before, because you know it's going to be cold the next morning, then you just turn the car on and everything works.
Well, it doesn't work in Maryland. And I remember I got to work, right? Because I was an early guy. I got to work. I'm there, and at about 9:30, there's no one in the office. 10 o'clock, no one in the office. And I finally called somebody. I'm like, well, what's going on? Why isn't it a Tuesday? They're like, oh, it's a snow day. We don't go to work. We don't drive on the snow. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. I've driven in hurricanes. That was a lot harder.
Well, that's something I didn't experience in Boone, North Carolina. There was never something, unless it snowed 3 foot of snow, there was no such thing as a snow day. Because it was in the mountains. If you took snow days, you'd end up missing like 4.5 weeks in between December and February. So,
yeah, these people in the Northeast who think we're all dumb, they're just soft.
Well, you know why the people in the Northeast are soft though, and everything, when they think we're dumb for how we deal with cold and everything. The same way they deal with heat, the morons. Oh, it's 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees. You can't go to work. Can't do anything extraneous outside because you could die from heat stroke. You could die from heat stroke. And I'm like, no, you die from heat stroke when it's 104 outside. That's when you die from heat stroke. 90 degrees,
okay.
90 degrees, you're out digging ditches. You're doing all kind of things in 90 degrees. It's a nice temperature. It's when it's 104, 105. Cool. That's where you worry about it.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's not unfair.
You know.
All right.
So, well, I've taken this and drawn it out as far as I can with the weather because I'm about to bring something up that's probably going to aggravate you, and you're probably going to, just rail and rail. So I got to do it anyway, and I'm doing it with 3 minutes before we have to go to a break, so you can just barely get started by the time the break comes up. Texas A&M has decided to forego its bowl game in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. We don't even have to talk. We'll talk about Tax Slayer and all that later. But the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, New Year's Eve. So we're talking about, today's the 23rd. We're talking about 8 days from now.
Yeah.
8 days. And they've canceled it because of an outbreak. They have right now 31 people in their system, in their program, 31 coaches, between coaches and players, that have all tested positive for COVID. It's supposed to be a 10-day quarantine if you test positive. By the way, I read a story this morning that said out of the 38 that have tested positive, 21 of them are asymptomatic. So really, 17 of them are sick. 21 of them are asymptomatic. And it's a 10-day quarantine anyway, they announced this yesterday. They tested positive the day before. That means game time. Everybody would be out of the 10-day quarantine. Is this, but by the way, they still get their practices. They just aren't going to play the game. So they get their 15 practices. Is this Jimbo Fisher calling this a little too early? Or is this smart on Jimbo Fisher's part? He gets his 15 practices, but he doesn't have to cost the program any money by going to a bowl game. And bowl games are notorious for being money losers for universities when it comes to the cost of the planes and shipping everybody out and everything. I think Jimbo's in a win-win here. He gets his 15 practices, but he doesn't have to go spend a bunch of money and lose money at a bowl game.
Well, it won't hurt him in recruiting because he's already had the number one recruiting class. I don't think Jimbo Fisher had a choice. I think the administration said, look, let's just cancel this. It's a bad, it's bad optics. The game doesn't mean anything. Then let's just stay home. And I think that's the easiest solution, right? The only people who are going to give him grief are people like you and me. But at the end of the day, he's
the fan base. What about the fan base that wants to go to Jacksonville? Jacksonville's such a great city to vacation in. Jacksonville.
They gave him enough time. They've been there before. No, I don't. I think it's a win-win. And again, the fan base right now in Aggie Nation can only go up after the recruiting class. And again, they couldn't practice. Every person who's in the COVID protocol has to isolate.
Right.
And that's the problem. And then after the break, we're going to talk about COVID because I thought our government couldn't get any dumber, but they are. They are dumber than we give them credit.
Let me tell you something. If the clock changes from December 22nd to December 23rd, they're dumber on December 23rd than they were on December 22nd. They get dumber as the clock. Every time the clock strikes midnight, that administration in Washington gets a little bit dumber. We got to take a break. We'll be back more with Galen Unall after this time out. You're listening to 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. This is WOCA, The Source.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Are you wasting time boxing up packages and going to the post office or the UPS store? Are you tired of not knowing what you'll pay when you get there? Just Ship offers pickup service and flat rate packaging and postage rates, which takes the guesswork out of shipping while saving you time and money. So quit wasting valuable time and money. Call or text Just Ship at 352-234-3840. That's 352-234-3840. Just Shipped.
Are you or your loved one being released from a hospital and wondering how you'll manage? Inform your physician that you want to go to Palm Garden of Ocala at 2700 Southwest 34th Street for your rehabilitation. Palm Garden provides pain management, post-discharge follow-up, diabetic care, psychosocial support, and so much more. Plus, they even offer outpatient rehab. This award-winning care facility has a team of licensed professionals dedicated to enhancing your independence. Call 352-854-6262 today.
You're having another great day and you have good taste tuning into WOCA The Source with Ocala Talks and Tom Schmitz. Well, 1 out of 2 isn't bad.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks. On a Thursday, I am your host, Tom Schmitz, coming to you from the studios of WOCA Radio, just off the runway of the Ocala International Airport in the Brick City, beautiful Ocala, Florida. Galen, Universal announced that they are going to start requiring, as Disney already has started requiring, Universal will now require masks to be worn at all their indoor facility rides and shows starting today. And that is in response to the very, very contagious, according to the CDC, Omicron variant of the COVID-19 pandemic. But it is Omicron, according to CDC, much more contagious than the other two variants, but a lot less dangerous than the other two variants. We've had one confirmed death. It was in New Mexico from Omicron, and that's it. That's it. And yet we're starting to go back to where now the president comes out yesterday with more mandates, and it's more contagious, but it's less deadly. And yet we're treating it like it's the start of the pandemic again all over in 2020.
Well, there's a couple of things wrong, right? From the very beginning, we were told we're going to follow the science. Now when we follow the science, we're told, no, you don't understand. So in the same day that Biden says we really need to go back to mask mandates, the CDC comes out with a report saying, you know what? You know those masks we told you to make? And the way we told you to make them, well, they didn't work. They didn't work at all. And if you read some of the footnotes that are stuck in the references to some of the other studies, in some cases, wearing a mask was more likely to get you COVID than not wearing a mask. And by the way, anybody with some common sense knew this. But if you talked about it, if you mention it on YouTube, Twitter, or any of the social media or Facebook, you were shut down, ridiculed, and told you were crazy. Early on, the CDC said this is how you should make a mask. We need homemade masks, right? We need sewing clubs to make masks, and they showed you how to do it. And then people were going on YouTube and showing how ineffective they are. But they got those taken down instantly because, again, they're trying to govern us. Right? At some point, we have to become ungovernable. Ungovernable? I don't know what that word is. But that's what we're facing right now. And so, the 3% of the population that fought for our freedom against the British, I guess 3% of the population is going to have to fight for our freedom against this tyranny. Because not enough people we're all just being cheap. Right? Everybody wants somebody else to take the lead on it. So. It's unbelievable.
Somebody just sent me this meme, and it's perfect for me. It says, they're telling the unjabbed to take the jab because the jab works. They're telling the jab to get a booster because the jab didn't work the first 2 times. And while telling everyone that the unjabbed are putting the jabbed in danger by not getting a jabbed, that the jab didn't protect in the first place.
No, it's even worse than that. The World Health Organization, right, that, again, many people believe are much smarter than the rest of us, right? Except for, especially Bill Gates, who funds it, comes out and says, don't get a booster, please, because you are taking that vaccination from everywhere else in the world. All right, science, who do you want me to believe? Should I get a booster or should I follow the almighty WHO and not get a booster? Should I wear a mask or should I follow the almighty CDC and get a mask? Or, in Biden's intelligence, go get tested. Why? and I said this a year ago. Why in the world should I get tested for COVID? Just give me one valid reason. If I have flu-like symptoms, why should I get a COVID test? Somebody please tell me. Because let's say I test positive. What are you going to have me do? You're going to have me isolate. You're going to have me stay away from other people, and you're going to tell me not to spread it.
So,
what?
What do you do?
You've been telling me to do with the flu for the last 50 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What's different than when you have the flu or you have flu-like symptoms? You know what you do? You stay home. You stay in bed, and you get over it. You don't go, oh, I got flu symptoms. I think I'll go to work, shake hands with everybody around the office, sneeze on a couple desks when I get in. Who does? Nobody does that. Everybody, when they have the flu or flu-like symptoms, they stay at home until it gets to the point where it's so bad they have to go to the hospital. That's what happens.
But instead, Biden says, I regret not being able to get these tests out, making more tests available. What are you talking about? I've been able to go to CVS or Walgreens and buy a COVID test for the last 5 months.
Yeah, but everybody needs it for free, Galen. They need to test for free.
What are we doing? And these people who are waiting in line, right, to get a COVID test, and you're asymptomatic, you are part of the problem. You are just a nut. You know what you are to these people? They don't care about your health. They just want to add one more to the statistic. Just one more. One more person. Look,
one more is a dollar sign. One more is a dollar sign.
That's right. And again, it's unbelievable. We now can not cure, but we can get you through the symptoms of COVID. You're not going to die. That person in New Mexico, they refused to release any of his information as to how he died because of HIPAA. But they say he died of COVID, which is a HIPAA violation. So which is it, New Mexico? Are you going to give us all the information or just the information you want us to have so you can continue to control our lives?
Well, you know the answer to that.
And to scare us into wearing masks, into quitting our jobs so that we're dependent on the almighty government for everything in our life. Again, that's where we've been.
When does
to stop the spread? Remember that, people. 2 weeks to stop the spread. Thank God we live in Florida.
When does the government realize if you stop having everybody work, the money stops flowing in taxes? You can't run the government anymore.
No.
When does that happen? Oh, wait, that only happened in Russia. That's right. That only happened in Russia.
No, because you got to understand what they want to do is once they get this bad enough, then they can go in and it's like, it's all this private industry's fault.
Right,
they're not
of course.
paying you while you're sick. Right? They're not doing a good job, and so now there is no private companies. This is the way it works, right? And again, am I a conspiracy theorist? I'm becoming more and more one every day.
Well, Khrushchev.
Every single day, I become more and more.
All you have to go back to is a speech in 1959 by Nikita Khrushchev. This is fact. You can go check this. This is not conjecture. This is fact. Nikita said in a 1959 interview, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said in the 1959 speech, you cannot force the American people into communism. They're too smart for that. They have too much of a military for that. That's not how this is going to work. We're going to have to infiltrate them small amounts at the time until we get to the point where up to half to maybe more of the population believes in the socialistic and communistic way. And then and only then will you be able to start taking control of the United States of America.
That's right. That's right. And again, it's going to be up to 3% to stand up for our rights. But if you're wearing a wet mask right now and it's cloth, and you feel better about yourself, or you think you're safer,
because that cloth doesn't hold germs. No, the cloth doesn't hold germs.
So if you go back and you look at the people who didn't wear a mask and how they were ridiculed for not wearing a mask,
screamed at,
right? Yeah, I mean Fauci talking about we should double mask. Remember this?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just unbelievable when you see somebody on TV and they're not wearing a mask, and you look on social media and they're ridiculed for not wearing a mask. Which is it? am I supposed to follow the science of a mask, or am I just supposed to be a part of this herd mentality? And again, and what happens in England now happens in the U.S. And look at in England, they are shutting things down, even though they're on the other side of Omicron. They're like, hospitalizations are up. And then you go and you look at the data, okay? Guess what? It's their flu season. This time of the year, our hospitals are always full. And part of that is because we don't have enough hospitals, you could argue. But again, this is a real problem. And until our society decides that we're going to rebel against this, we're going to continue to get this. And the stories change from station to station, from news outlet to news outlet.
100%.
And you've got to be very, very conscientious of where you're getting your information. And I'm saying that, don't believe me, read.
Right.
That's what I want more people to do. Pick up some of these studies and read them. Or find someone who's as neutral as possible, who's breaking down what they're saying. That's all you can do. But if you're getting your information from CNBC, CNN, or Fox only, then you're nothing but a sheep.
Yeah, because you're only getting your news from an outlet that leans the way you think already. They're not telling you anything you don't want to hear. They're telling you exactly what you want to hear. And because news media we shouldn't even call them news media anymore. We just call them media outlets. I like that. Just call them media outlets because they don't give you the news. They give you the opinion and news that makes you smile and feel better about yourself.
Or hate.
Or hate the other side. Exactly.
They're trying to create emotion because emotion means you're going to watch it.
And emotion means you won't click out. And you know what happens when you don't click out?
Correct.
You get to watch all the commercials that are bought on that station as well.
And it becomes a form of gaslighting.
Of course it's a form of gaslighting.
And again, I just don't understand it, and then Biden's like, oh, okay, well, we got this COVID pill. Okay, great. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it is a bad thing. Then what are we doing? We don't have a cure for the common cold.
Yeah,
right?
if we'd have worked this hard, if we'd have worked this hard on the common cold, which more people are afflicted with every year than any other disease on the face of the planet, if we'd have worked this hard on the common cure for the common cold, we'd have put people. You know how many businesses would be out of business? You wouldn't need Mucinex, and you wouldn't need Tylenol PM, and you wouldn't need all these cold medicines and Alka-Seltzer flu and everything. You know how many people you'd put out of business?
Yeah, but you do know those do nothing more than control the symptoms.
They tamp them down. That's all they do.
And guess what? COVID is a flu.
Yeah.
Coronavirus
it is a variant of the flu. Yep. Coronavirus 2 is the common cold. Coronavirus 2 is the common cold.
By every definition, it's a flu. By every single definition.
It is a flu virus. Yep.
I am not saying it's not deadly. Omicron, I don't think killing one person is deadly. I think you have to be smart because people die of peanut allergies, and you wouldn't consider a peanut deadly.
Nope.
Would you?
Well,
More people die of peanut allergies than Omicron.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back after this timeout. You're listening to WOCA, The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
A fire at an ExxonMobil oil refinery in Texas left several people injured Thursday morning after what officials and local residents suggested may have been an explosion. At least 3 people were transported to hospital by air ambulance as authorities responded to the major industrial accident in Baytown, Texas. That's about 25 miles east of Houston. Staying in the region, the Department of Justice announced Taylor Energy, a Louisiana-based company, will pay